So today we're discussing a very important and serious topic. Does masturbation impact muscle growth and performance? So because this is such a serious topic, I'm not going to make any jokes or puns as I usually do. Now, obviously this is a bit of a touchy topic and I don't want it to get out of hand, so let's get straight into it. I don't want to beat around the bush. So the first serious question is, does beating the bishop impact your testosterone levels? And some studies say it does slightly, others say that it actually increases your testosterone temporarily. So typically when you're playing 5-on-1, your testosterone will begin to rise. It'll peak as you peak, and it'll start to finish as you finish, and then it'll go back down to normal levels. However, this transient increase in choking the chicken won't really impact your long-term growths. A small spike in testosterone within the normal range will have absolutely zero impact on your long-term progress. One study, it found that if you abstain for 3 weeks and then you shake hands with a one-eyed milkman, then you will get a higher rise than if you did not abstain. But again, this transient increase is going to have very, very little to no impact on your long-term results. Another study from Hangzhou, China, they separated people into 2 groups. One group had to completely abstain. The other group was told they could celebrate Palm Sunday as often as they wanted. On days 6 and 7, the group that abstained had a 50% higher spike in testosterone. Now, 50% from only not marching the purple penguin is pretty impressive. However, you have to realize a few things. First, there were only 10 participants in the study. Second, they didn't actually have the same days for both groups, so the groups were allowed to start on different days. Also, they didn't actually check to see how many times they were shucking the corn. So one group was told they could beat their meat as often as they wanted, but they didn't actually ask them how often they beat their meat. So it could have been 8 times per day, or it could have been once, or it could have been not at all. Not a very well-designed study. Furthermore, you have to ask yourself why. Why 7 days? Why is there this spike on the 6th and the 7th day? I think the most likely explanation is because we live in a society that has a 7-day week. There's no reason for 7 days. Your body shouldn't know 7 days, and the only conjecture would be that you are less stressed on the weekend, and so your cortisol level is lower and your testosterone level might be slightly higher. I'm not sure why giving yourself a hand would play into this, but it might have some possible impact. So while this is sort of a hard question to answer, I'm going to try to address it head on and say no. It's not going to impact your growth or your gains whatsoever. And quite frankly, I think that fears are 100% overblown. If you're going on a date with Pamela Henderson all the time, like 5 times per day, you are addicted, my friend, and you should probably reduce that amount. But if it's less than that, I'm not going to say what is a lot or what is a little, but if it's a reasonable amount and you have it under control and you're not addicted, then I think it is completely fine. Another vital factor is sleep. So when it comes to actual sex or flogging the dolphin, if it's impacting your sleep, that is going to be very, very important. But for most people, I would say this isn't going to be a factor. The reality is that testosterone just doesn't have as big of an impact as people think. If you're within the normal range, it's not going to have a huge impact on muscle growth. If you go from 800 to 900, you won't see a big difference. If you go from 600 to 500, you won't see a big difference. If you go from like 200 to 500, okay, maybe, because you're going from low testosterone to high testosterone. And again, hand-to-gland combat isn't really going to have a long-term effect. It's going to be 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour at most. And this is true of a lot of hormones. Growth hormone, no correlation with overall muscle growth and strength gains. IGF-1, same thing. So these transient increases or even just long-term increases in these hormones within the normal range isn't going to have a big impact. This is a topic that I'll expand upon at some other point. I'll really flesh it out. But in this video, just it's enough to know transient increases or decreases have absolutely zero long-term impact. So there are really only 2 ways that holding the sausage hostage can have an impact. The first, as I mentioned before, is going to be sleep. If this is somehow causing you to get a lower quality of sleep or less sleep, that will impact your hormone levels as well as your muscle growth. The other way that playing tug of war with the Cyclops can have an impact is that it increases a hormone called prolactin. And prolactin is going to reduce your dopamine levels, and dopamine is responsible for your drive, your vigor, your passion. This is part of the reason why after you finish, you might want to go to sleep. You might just want to have a nap, and that feeling is obviously not going to be good for exercising. So I would say wait 1 to 2 hours after making the bald man cry to go exercise. You're going to have better performance, you're going to be more focused, and honestly, it shouldn't make a big difference if you give yourself a little bit of a gap. There is a lot of anecdotal evidence that a lack of FAP can help focus, can help anxiety, can help depression, but again, this is all anecdotal evidence, and I typically go by the research. That being said, there isn't that much research, so perhaps try it out. Try it for a week, for a month, and see if you objectively, as possible, feel any better. Ultimately, it's up to you. Just keep in mind there is very little evidence that it actually has any kind of negative effect, let alone a long-term negative effect. And if you want to play the single-string air guitar, feel free. Alright, that is all for this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. A very, very serious topic today. And I will see you in the next video. Peace!